And not to make light of the trauma that she experienced, but it kind of sounds like I'm going to use my trauma as a weapon against you. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have done this to me because I had this horrible thing happen. They are not related.
Yeah.
They are not related in any way.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Teri.
And I'm Roy. And we are the opposite of. And last week we talked about first dates. Today,
horror stories.
Oh, yeah. No, just casual first dates. Yeah. What everyone has and should have.
Like the crystals.
Mm-hmm. Sugar. Blue sugar? I don't know. Whatever secret
we called it blue sugar. Stuff from Zootopia.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad. That stuff.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I feel like Breaking Bad would probably be a more common one.
But today we're going a different route.
Mm-hmm. Today we're going to be the opposite of considerate and non-judgmental people, because we're going to be on... Am I the booty hole on Reddit and judging people based off of what's going on?
Yep. So today I have a few stories for us to cover. I kind of briefly read, like a little bit skimmed them, but I haven't just like gone into it. So we're going to do that right now. So just a reminder, we are a new channel. So please subscribe if you haven't. Please share our content. Please like if you do like the video, if you're enjoying our videos. It really, really helps us grow the channel. We would love to be able to do this long term. So, yeah, please, if you would like to support us, do those things.
And make sure to comment anything for the algorithm.
Yes.
Especially if you have any suggestions for us or specific stories that you want us to read. Then feel free to comment that. We will be checking, and we will probably include that in another video.
Anyway, I don't want to prolong too long, so we're going to go ahead and get into the video. All right, first story. Am I the asshole for ruining my friend's surprise proposal by being at the same place at the same time? My friend Laura, 26 female, has been with her boyfriend Mike, 28 male, for 4 years. A couple of weeks ago, she mentioned that Mike had a surprise planned for her and speculated it might be a proposal. I had minimal contact with Mike and had no idea what he was planning, so I wished her luck with whatever it was. 3 days ago, my best friend got a promotion she'd been working towards for 6 months, and I insisted we celebrate. I reserved a table at a fancy Italian restaurant. I arrived 10 minutes before my friend to see Laura, dressed nicely, sitting at a table across from me. The table was decorated with beautiful white flowers and candles. I went over to say hello, but Laura reacted by yelling and crying in the middle of the restaurant. It turned out that Mike was proposing, and she thought I had reserved the table to ruin her proposal out of jealousy. She stormed out, and everyone stared at me and gave me dirty looks. I stayed for the entire dinner to avoid spoiling my friend's promotion, though it was very awkward. The next day, I tried to call Laura to explain, but she didn't answer. I sent her a text explaining the situation, but she didn't see it or reply. Now, her sister and mother are harassing me, accusing me of ruining her proposal. I genuinely didn't know about the proposal, so am I the asshole for supposedly ruining my friend's proposal? Edit. I forgot to mention that one of Laura's friends did contact me after all of this went down and had told me that Mike was in the bathroom when I approached Laura and was actually planning to propose. And no, I didn't walk up to them while he was proposing. She was sitting alone, and I thought it would be nice to say hi to a friend. Yeah.
Yeah, no. What? I feel like that's obviously not. Because if you don't know, then you don't know. And if anything, well, yeah, no. Yeah, that's just, there's literally no way you could have avoided that scenario.
Yeah.
But then her assumption is really what kind of ruined it for herself. So.
Yeah, like they're separately going out with a different friend, and the friend hadn't been there yet.
Yeah.
So you say, oh, my friend's here. Let me say hi.
Yeah.
Not understanding that it was like a proposal. Plus, like, they weren't even, yeah, no.
And if she was like under the impression that today is the big day, and she saw her, she could have just been like, yeah, hi, but like go away real quick. Something important is happening.
Yeah.
But there was no opportunity for that. There was just an immediate rage. So
yeah, and so the table was decorated with cute, beautiful white flowers and candles. I went over to say hello, but Laura reacted by yelling and crying in the middle of the restaurant.
Yeah, That sounds very...
That's unhinged.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was very unprovoked.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had that friend that would just think that you're out to get them? That's a very high school kind of mindset, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's a very possible, like, I'm always the center of attention. So, and maybe also the, like, looking for drama type thing, you know? So, yeah.
Well, I've had people that I've known people that were like, she's copying me. Like, that person's copying me because they did something similar.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, you're in high school, everyone copies each other. That's like how that age group works.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't invent that thing just because you did it before that person did, and they got inspiration from you. Like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
But it kind of sounds like this person just, like, maybe thinks that, you know, they were... I don't know, what would be the motive? Like, that's crazy.
It's also to be like, oh my gosh, it's actually... He's jealous and wanted to come ruin it. Which then there's so many aspects of, like, I wonder how she spun this story to other people.
Yeah.
Because how could he have even known? She has to, like, she has to assume that the guy, like, somehow figured out, too.
Yeah. One of the comments says, who sees a friend coming up to them and instantly thinks they're going to ruin something for me? What kind of friend thinks that way? That's kind of what I was getting at, is like...
Yeah.
You know? No one. That's why this post seems fishy AF. Definitely seems like there's a lot of missing context. And I agree, there's a lot of things that we don't know based on the story. The story is very short, very sweet.
Yeah.
We don't know if maybe...
There's a history where this guy liked that girl or whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, it just...
I mean, if there's any kind of way that he could have known, then yes, he's an asshole. Like, that's really it. If he knew that was, like, you know... Because, like, then there's more of a maybe if there's this idea of you planned the event, you booked it, and then before the day of, you learn that's when the proposal happening, but you chose not to cancel it. And then there's this, like, in between of whether you're an asshole or not. Like, but this seems like just absolutely not. So, I don't know.
Yeah. So some of these comments are saying, you know, a few things, kind of like doubting the story. And someone said, it sounds like she was disappointed that he didn't propose and needed a dramatic outlet for her disappointment. And then someone else is saying, yeah, the facts don't line up, which usually means someone is grossly mistaken or lying. If the proposal was supposed to be a surprise, he hadn't proposed yet, and OP still somehow ruined it, then it seems that someone, either Laura or Mike, is using OP's chance encounter as a scapegoat for a disappointing outcome of the dinner, which could be very, very possible. I mean, it could also not be true. This thing was from, I think, literally today. So a lot of things about it probably haven't come out yet.
Yeah.
So there's always that chance that the person was lying in the first place, and someone else was said that I'm getting the unreliable narrator vibes from this. To be honest, it's not adding up, and I kind of agree, because I was like, there's so many things left out that it's hard to say. But if this is true and there's not a lot of context that would change things missing, then I would say you're not the asshole, because you didn't know that they were going to go to that restaurant. You may have known something like that was coming, but how would you know that it was that night? Also, even if they were going to propose, how does talking to them for 5 minutes constitute ruining their night?
Yeah.
Sounds like the girl threw a tantrum.
Yeah. And it's also not even talking for 5 minutes. It seemed like an instant, like...
Yeah, it's almost like the reaction a child has when you say, hey, let me see it real quick so I can fix it. And then you try to take it, and then they freak out because they don't understand. Yeah. And then you give it back. It seems like nothing happened. It's a big ball of nothing. All right. Next story. This was also posted today. A lot of the stories that I grabbed were posted today. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for a wedding portrait because my friend sexualized me in it? My friend is a painter. I've seen her work and it is beautiful. Asking if she was willing to paint a portrait of me and my husband in our wedding outfits. I thought it would be a good 1-year anniversary gift. I've seen her work and she can do realistic painting of people. She asked for a reference for this and I gave her a few pictures and a $300 deposit. In total, we agreed a total of $700. She showed me the painting yesterday. My husband looked great, but I looked completely different. In short, she sexualized me, and I find it so gross. The painting has me with huge boobs. I don't really have any. I'm an A cup due to running. My wedding dress is showing much more skin. She even added a split to my dress to show off more leg. I don't like that in any of my photos. I don't look like that in any of the photos I gave her. I find it really gross. I told her I will not be paying her, that she needs to fix it or she can keep it. This caused a huge argument. She thinks I'm a jerk for not paying, and I'm pointing out the stuff above. It is going around with my friends. Some think I'm being petty and others stand by me.
That's weird.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, no. The answer would be no. I think there's the general... Well, I mean, I guess I don't know the details of the conversation, but still the general idea is like, oh, can you make a painting of this picture and then you completely distort part of it? And then, like, if you're making a risky move in a painting that has not been pre-approved, and then you're like surprise Pikachu face when like that risky move was really bad,
Yeah,
then it seems like understandable. And like apparently, because it's like looks like you're still keeping $300 as well, for like making a painting that the person is not happy with. So
yeah, so they owe the person $400. So there's a few things about this. One person pointed out, your friend did not show you sketches or progress photos. That is a bit weird.
yeah,
And they said that she's just going off the one picture I gave her. That's not what you said.
oh,
That's not what they said.
yeah, they said a few pictures.
Let me find where it was.
This is what happens when we find posts for today that it's like, oh, it turns out the OP might have been lying a little bit here and there. Who knows? I always wonder this idea of like someone like was an actual asshole, and so they go to like Am I the Asshole Reddit and lie a little bit about the story in order to feel like make themselves feel a little better.
Yeah, that doesn't line up with what she said. So that makes me wonder about the story. But let's assume it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Let us assume it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because this one's lying doesn't mean that there's not going to be other scenarios that something similar to this happened. So let's assume that she is telling the truth. So my thought is, number one, $700 is really cheap for that kind of thing. There's been a controversy going around TikTok in the last couple months where a girl charged $400 for like a really crappy looking painting.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were like, wow, I would not pay that. Was it 400 or 4,000? I think it was $400.
Mm-hmm.
But whereas some of those types of paintings can go up to like 9,000.
Yeah.
And so people were like, wow, $400, I wouldn't pay for that, because it looked like somebody who was like a student, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, for $400 for that much work, like I can understand, but it did look unfinished. But the point is that the stuff can get really expensive, so they're doing you a solid doing it for $700.
Mm-hmm.
And number two is, why did you go straight to yelling at the person and arguing with them? You could have just said, hey, that's not what I look like. Can you change it to what I actually look like? I'm not really liking these changes. They make me feel awkward. They make me feel weird. There's no mention of an actual conversation.
She did, but I mean, I think
she
says is more, and so it's the question of, is she like summarizing this, or is this just straight to how it went, where she's just like, oh, like change it or I'm not paying you.
There's a difference between, hey, before you give me the final thing, let's fix this. She just said, I'm not paying you unless you fix that. That's a big difference in tone.
Yeah. I mean, if that's actually how she was, then she's being a little bit of an asshole about it. Mm-hmm. But the sentiment still kind of stands. I'm toxic,
yeah.
I guess. But like, I don't know. I still feel like that's like completely reasonable. Like, it depends on what they agreed on in the first place. Like, there's a reason why there's just $300 deposit as opposed to paying the whole thing up front, is because you pay a certain portion of it and then you approve what you're getting before you pay the rest. So that makes sense that like that means their agreement was not like, no matter what I get, I'll still pay you the whole thing. It was still this idea of like, I'm paying you money to get materials and I'll pay you the rest if I like what you give me. And so then there's this, what the commenter posted out, there's no updates at all of like this painter doing anything, like, or letting her know that she's changing anything. That very much feels like it's the painter's fault.
Yeah, and as a professional, you should be the one to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you weren't going to like it that way. Let me see what I can do to fix it.
Yeah, even if it's your friend, that still doesn't mean that you, like, therefore not give a shit, you know? Or do whatever you want and then expect them to still give you money for it. That's a little
Yeah.
messed up.
So my verdict is everyone's a little bit of an asshole.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's my verdict. Because this is it's kind of ridiculous that it got that far, to be honest with you.
Yeah. There's the slight verdict of like, I mean, I still feel just Painter is an asshole, but also he could be lying a little bit.
Yeah. So this next story is a little bit longer. This one is from Best of Redditor Updates. It is not super new or anything, but I picked it out because it's not the exact thing, but it reminded me of our situation where I decided not to take your last name when we got married because I wanted to save my last name. So anyway, so let me go ahead and read it. My fiance, male 21, is taking my female 22 last name. And I always wanted him to take my last name. So his parents are threatening not to come to our wedding. How do we handle this? So this is probably from like relationship advice or something. I don't know. But it's on Best of Redditor Updates now. My fiance and I have been together for 6 years, getting married this year. Oh, that's a long time. So 6 years, they were like 16, 17. I never cared much about my last name, but after some recent family events, realized I want to keep mine. Alex doesn't mind and chose to change his last name so we'd match. Upon finding out, Alex's parents, Lisa and Luke, yelled at him. Lisa cussed him out, so my parents let him stay with us for the last week of winter break. Lovely. Lisa and Luke say Alex is destroying and disowning his family, publicly humiliating them, and say I'm stripping him of his manhood. They told us we're unbiblical and that women should submit. Whoa.
Oh, okay. This is immediately, I don't like the parents.
Whoa. To them, it's political, too. They say the queer community is the reason we are susceptible to this. Transgender people are to blame, and America is in its downfall. This is just another sign. Whoa.
Okay, this feels like curated to be an obvious, like, with how bad it is. Like, they just, like, hit all the points of being terrible people.
Yeah.
And then decided to...
No, but there's a lot of people I know that agree with all of those points.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not done, by the way. I'm not done. There's a lot
I'm
more.
pre-calling it, though, that this person's not the asshole. We'll see if I'm...
We'll see.
Yeah.
Alex has gotten plenty of texts from Lisa calling him hateful, cruel, cold, asking how he can let her suffer. The victimhood is ridiculous. The meetings Alex had with his parents went poorly. They told him they wanted to see him and not talk about the name, but then did. One meeting involved both set of parents, Lisa and Luke, talked 90% of the time before getting up and leaving. They're mad Alex stayed with us and said even if we go with his name, they'd resent us and my family for supporting us. Lisa threatened to cut Alex off and said he won't get another penny. They'd planned to contribute to our wedding, stating there were no strings attached and they fund his college apartment. Lisa said this is the worst thing to happen to her since losing her first baby, and that it's worse than if Alex had gotten me pregnant, killed someone drunk driving, or was gay.
All those equal the same. Yeah.
Well, I do agree that it's worse than if he was gay. No, I was kidding.
Wow.
My goodness. Oof. That's crazy. All right.
Was that the whole thing?
No.
Oh.
She's telling Alex that his grandparents will have to move to assisted living from heartbreak. And Luke keeps telling Alex his choice is hurting people. Their main reason seems to be that it is tradition and they want the last name carried on. It's not an uncommon last name, in parentheses.
Yeah.
I also learned that Lisa borderline tried to talk Alex out of proposing. Alex asked me to marry him anyway, and Lisa called my mom in the midst of the engagement excitement to share her disapproval. They said that they get a say until Alex is married, and that's when they leave us be. I don't think that's true.
No, that's not true at all.
Lisa and Luke keep texting Alex and my parents, but I have never gotten anything. They openly dislike me now, bad-mouthing me whether I'm there or not. I've decided my relationship with Lisa and Luke is over. It was rocky before, but they tried to push their religion onto me numerous times. Alex is deciding how much more he can give. He hasn't taken a harsh tone or spoken rudely to his parents, but is tired. Now his parents say if Alex won't move back home, their financial support ends. They say the family won't come to the wedding, and one of his siblings actually has left the wedding party. Whoa! So his siblings
Are
also on the manipulation train.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I have decided to stay mostly away from Lisa and Luke now, but they are Alex's family. With the wedding still coming up, we are unsure how to move forward. Edit to add, Lisa and Luke's financial support is not necessary and the wedding will proceed with or without it. Just thought it relevant to point out that the money that was offered was no strings attached, clearly does have strings. We know we are young and we are still getting married after spending 6 years together. Postponing the wedding is not something we're willing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, there's updates. I just wanted to talk about that whole mess first, but
obviously she's like such an asshole. Like, why would you like?
Well, this is not an "Am I the Asshole" post, Roy.
Oh yeah.
They're not asking if they're an asshole.
Well, they are.
They're just like telling the story essentially.
Yeah.
I have a lot of feelings about this.
Mm-hmm.
My first thought is, I have a lot of family who feel very similar to that, less aggressive.
Yeah. Same.
I don't think that manipulating your family member into doing things how you want them to do it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Their views are a little insane, but that's okay. That's not the important part. The important part is the manipulation, the whole family trying to gang up on them, and clearly they didn't like her from the start. So this is just another cut on the wound, salt into the wound, as I should say.
Mm-hmm.
That now, not only is he marrying someone they clearly don't like because they're clearly a different religion and they seem to be one of those pushy religions where people are not doing a very good job of minding their manners, and they tend to try to convert everybody.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's pretty common. But it seems like she already wasn't being the person they would like.
Yeah.
And so they already didn't like her, and then it's like a slap in the face to them that she's now wanting to steal their son's last name and, make him hers.
Yeah.
But it's like completely his choice. They've been dating a long time. That's like a quarter of their life.
Yeah.
At this point that they've been dating.
Yeah.
And they seem to be of sound mind, making their own choices. And this family sounds crazy.
Yeah. It's always if your reason to not do something or to be against it is purely because tradition, that you should probably reevaluate.
It sounds like they are very conservative.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
They might have their own flavor. Everyone has their own flavor. But they are balling in something that has nothing to do with those things. Well, not nothing, because it is like traditional in a patriarchy for the man's name to get passed down.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not a requirement. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you should do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Within reason, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know how to explain this. The point is not their views. The point is that they're rolling in something so insignificant with all of their views that not only, I don't know if I should call it insignificant.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as them going off the deep end doing something crazy.
Yeah.
They made this decision on their own because they want to match names together. It's not like he's disowning his family, but they're acting like it is.
And it's also like to hate her is super wild because it's not like she's forcing him to make that decision at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's more like he wanted to do that and then they're mad at her because of it.
So to recap what was happening, he was being manipulated. They were attempting to manipulate him to do what they wanted, and they were verbally abusing her and him. Mostly him because she wasn't talking to them. Apparently they were talking bad to her parents.
Yeah.
They got the other children involved, like his siblings involved. Now his siblings don't want to come to the wedding. So they're just trying to use what they feel like they can to manipulate. Now, there's an update. This update was in July.
Okay.
So it's somewhat recent.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex and I got married this month and everything was absolutely beautiful. Since my original post, after more months of emotional and verbal abuse, Alex made the difficult decision that his parents were no longer welcome at our wedding. He explained that he couldn't trust them to respect his boundaries, respect us at all, or respect what the event was about.
Mm-hmm.
As expected, they freaked out, asking if he was trapped and needed help, saying everything had become about me, and telling him he'd been isolated from everyone he loves. We're not sure what story they told Alex's extended family. Alex reached out to everyone to explain what had been going on, but everyone's response he received was more disgust toward his name choice, refusal of wedding invitations, and saying he needed to apologize/grovel to fix the family. Most of Lisa's family were the ones talking about how dishonorable he was being and how he was breaking apart the family. Interesting seeing none of them share Lisa and Luke's last name. Luke's family does. Yeah, that's weird. Luckily, only one invitation was returned with nasty notes inside, but the rest of the digital responses took Lisa and Luke's side, berated Alex for doing this near the anniversary of the death of Lisa's first child, and called him cruel and hateful.
Their whole family just messed
those
up.
two things are apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. They don't, like, this situation has no bearing on
it's
that.
You dare not listen to me at all. Or, like, if you disobey me, then, oh, well, I'm already sad about something else. You're supposed to listen to everything I said.
And not to make light of the trauma that she experienced, but it kind of sounds like I'm going to use my trauma as a weapon against you. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have done this to me because I had this horrible thing happen. They are not related.
Yeah.
They are not related in any way.
Yeah.
For context, Lisa's first child passed away a few days after birth, over 25 years ago. Alex says there has never been any remembrance that he knows of, and they do nothing on the anniversary. He doesn't even know the date of the anniversary. Lisa and Luke explained what happened once when he was young and never mentioned anything again. We're unsure why it's all coming back up now, but after presenting as generally unimportant his whole life, apparently this drama being 4 months from the anniversary was disrespectful. That's more evidence about what we were just saying.
4 months from the anniversary. So, yeah, that's not even like...
That's a different section of the year.
Yeah.
His sister Alice also went off the rails. After checking in to see how Alex was doing, Alice got angry that he wanted to discuss things over text instead of on the phone. It became obvious that she wanted him on the phone to berate him because she ranted about how he was steamrolling their parents and wasn't really an adult because he wasn't married yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this,
what's
like,
funny?
in every single way, they keep getting worse.
Low key, there's a lot of families that feel like that, but they won't say it out loud.
Yeah.
There's a lot of families, like, before you get married, you're not even an adult.
Mm-hmm.
They don't treat you like an adult. They don't treat you like...
They're because apparently they're still living with parents. They, like, that's, like, the parents have it that way.
Yeah,
like...
because they're in college.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay.
You know what I mean?
But even still, yeah, I'm sure it's also another thing of, like, they would not let them live on their own.
Yeah.
You have to live with me until you get married. That's a sentiment. That's, like, a real thing.
She said she had encouraged Lisa and Luke to cut him off long ago and that I wasn't acting like family since I stopped letting her follow my Instagram account. This was after she dropped out as a bridesmaid and made it clear she didn't support our marriage. I decided not everyone gets full access to my life. That's good boundaries.
Why did you unadd me when I berated you?
Right. And dropped out of your wedding and told you how crappy you were.
Yeah.
As his only sibling, it was devastating for Alex to watch Alice spiral into fully taking their parents' side after initially leading him to believe she had his back and being supportive. After saying not to expect her and Alex's brother-in-law at the wedding, there's been no further context since Alice refuses to speak to him unless he'll talk on the phone. At this point, he won't do any phone calls as we'd rather have record of everything that goes down. Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Yep.
Many people tried to talk to Lisa and Luke, my parents, mutual friends, etc., to encourage them to choose relationship and explain the damage they were causing wasn't worth the loss they'd endure. Mm-hmm. It seemed to have no effect. Alex was quick to become no longer financially dependent on his parents. Mm-hmm. We've changed his phone plan, reclaimed all his bills from Lisa and Luke, fully moved out, and finished college. We are not sure if they attended graduation. They texted Alex the day before to say they'd be there, but then turned off their location services. Graduation day was stressful and nerve-wracking, with Alex not knowing if they'd make a scene or quarter him. He left as soon as he walked across the stage, made it to his car with no interactions. That's so sad.
Yeah,
to not know if your
can't-
family's going to go the extra mile to ruin your day. That's so sad.
You can't enjoy things for yourself anymore. That's really...
Because your family's going to make a point to try and ruin it for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I fully support going no contact with people like that.
Yeah.
Since then, as most Redditors suggested, we've been nearly no contact with Lisa and Luke. We spent the first 6 weeks of summer finishing wedding details, and our last month was gorgeous. Alex received no... Oh, there's an Alex... Yeah. I'm getting confused with the Alex and the Alice.
Mm-hmm.
Received no communication between graduation and the wedding, and has no plans to continue their relationship without an apology. Lisa and Luke did not show up to the wedding or anything day of. The only recent change is Lisa unfollowing and unfriending both of us and my family on all social media. For me, my in-law relationships are basically over, apology or not. Learning they'd never supported our engagement, ignoring my existence, and hating me because of my political and religious beliefs is enough for me not to keep contact. Thank you, Redditors, for your kind help and good wishes. Our day was truly perfect and straight out of a fairy tale, and we're looking forward to the next chapter of our lives with hopefully less drama.
Yeah, I honestly agree with her in that, like, even if they forgive, I would not go back to contact. They made their point. And like that, they made their decision. They should stick with that. And like, nah, you get to live with that. Even if you apologize, you can do it for my sake, and that means it's a real apology. But if you're only apologizing in order to like get something out of it, that's not even a real apology anyway. So yeah, no, like it's over.
I'm so glad that they decided to cut off that family, because there is nothing but toxicity there.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that they've been like that in similar ways. In the past,
at the least,
too.
I would say maybe contact again with the sibling.
The sibling was one of the worst.
But at least there's this question of like, are they... Well, no, because she's actually a grown adult now, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, they were all pretty much adults at that time.
There's always this idea of like, if you're brainwashed into it and then you realize that you're wrong, it's different. Then
so you're hoping one day the sibling will wake up. There's no evidence of that.
And they're already an adult.
We can fingers crossed that maybe the relationship could come back if the sibling, you're right, wakes up from the brainwash. Yeah. Someone in the comments said they'll be back. Once a baby comes, they'll be wanting in because they're family.
Yeah, that's real. That's super real. Hopefully they never find out about it, though. I mean, well, they're going to find out. Yeah, I agree. But, like, yeah, I'm sure they're going to find a way to find out by, like, annoying the crap out of someone who still is friends with them or whatever.
The next comment says, they don't distinguish between their children and themselves. They see children as an extension of themselves, and they cannot accept that extension not doing what they would do. They are rabidly insecure people who can't handle the emotional discomfort of having their ideas challenged. All must be them and under their control, or it has no value to them. It's very true. A lot of people, especially narcissistic people, this is like a huge thing. They view that child like as themselves. Mm-hmm. And so that child must, like this person is saying, be under their control. They must do what they want them to do. They must live the way they want to live. And that's not a healthy way to parent. Your child, especially as your child becomes an adult and a teenager, they must make their own choices for themselves. They must go out and experience things differently from you, and it's your job to teach them so they are armed with all of the knowledge that they'll need, and also guide them and give them like, look, this is what happened when this happened to me. Please don't do that. Here's some evidence that shows like that's a bad idea. Teach them how to find that evidence for themselves. Teach them all these things so they can make the decision themselves, not so you can use them to correct the things you think went wrong in your life.
Yeah. It's still also the idea of like they're not adults till they're married is kind of like dumb. It still like it lets them still make decisions, and whenever, especially it's a lifelong decision, right? So them saying like, I still make the decision for you because you're not married yet. Well, as soon as they get married, if after they get married he changes his last name, they're still going to be a butt about it. So obviously there's no true. Like, as soon as you get married you make your own decisions, because they're still going to want to.
It's gonna be something else. They're gonna pretend they never said that.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be something else, especially when there's a child.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep the grandchild from me.
That
kind of thing.
That's definitely gonna be happening.
They don't care about the rift, not really. To quote someone else, they prefer disingenuous harmony to honest conflict. That really speaks to me because I am somebody who will fight the fight and argue with you because that is the honest truth.
Yeah.
Rather than sit there and not deal with making nice in a space where that's not real.
Yeah.
Disingenuous harmony, like they say.
I think it's very common for people who, especially in religious, but well, I don't know. Maybe there's some bias there. People who will grow up like that and think that way, and like, because there's just no like, you live with people who there's no convincing them, and they're not using like, they're not being reasonable. There's no actual finding an answer or coming to a conclusion. It's just like, no, my way is the right way. Shut up. And so if that's how it is, then you just kind of like, okay, then I guess we don't talk about it and we just try to make peace because I'm stuck here. And there's
that's how a lot of families operate.
Yeah. So that makes sense that like, I'm sure that's why he was cool with being with them for so long. It's because he just kind of had to deal with it. But now that it's coming to this point of like, hey, now there's not a situation where I can't just kind of like say okay, or like where I feel forced to just say okay. Like he can actually like finally have his own stance and then leave. And so this is probably the first time that he's able to do this, and that's why it's such a huge deal. Because it's like him finally being able to actually do what he wants, which is probably not something that he's normally able to do in that family.
Yeah, and it seems like it's his time to stand up for himself and for his now wife. Mm-hmm. If you continue to act this way with me, I won't be able to have you in my life. Mm-hmm. That's boundaries. Mm-hmm. Boundaries are not, if you continue to act this way, I'm going to do something to you. That's not a boundary. That's a threat. Yeah. But sometimes you have to step away. Okay. They said they cannot take a step back. Oh, sorry. Where did I stop? They don't care that they're hurting their child as long as that hurt is not reflected back on them. They just don't want to feel the bad feelings. So long as everyone makes sure that they don't, things are good. If people do make them feel bad feelings, then obviously those people are to blame and need to be either curtailed and made an example of or cut out so they can no longer hurt them. Mm-hmm. Dang, that's deep.
Also, what's curtailed?
Curtailed is like...
context clues I understand. Curtailed
is like...
Definition on screen.
Yeah, we'll do it that way. Because it's like, I know all these words, but when you say, yo, what's the definition? I don't know the Webster's. Mm. I just know how it's used.
Yeah.
They cannot take a step back because taking a step back would mean having to confront all those nasty feelings. Not even just the hurt they feel because of the name thing, but also the potential shame of hurting their child. The pain they feel because their actions made their child withdraw from them. The fear that they are losing control, etc. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to say that people like this do love their children in their own way. They just cannot do self-reflection. Their whole life is built around protecting themselves from ever looking inward, and they will always be first place. There's more, but dang, this person has a way with words. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Any children they may have come second, which is still above most other people. They still want those children to be happy and successful and all that, but only if those children make sure that their parents' egos are protected at all costs. It is not real love, not the type of love you should have for anyone, let alone as a parent to a child, but to someone like that, that is the only love that they are able to give. They love their children as an extension of themselves. They love their children as the roles said children play in their lives. And since they don't know any other way to live, they will claim high and low that they do love their kids. Because in their minds they do, and it's their children who aren't able to see that. Source, my mom is like this. I've been no contact for a fair few years, and it's the best choice I ever made.
Yeah.
That was so well put.
Yeah.
I almost said, more better than I ever could have put it.
Yes, exactly. That is true. You are correct.
Yeah, dang. Mm-hmm. That was really well put. This is excruciatingly well put. Thank you. I've been no contact with my parents for almost 15 years, and this is exactly what I've come to realize about them, and especially my mom. Their entire lives are structured around protecting themselves from feeling any discomfort and from engaging in any self-reflection whatsoever, to the degree that they're willing to sacrifice everything and everyone in order to keep it that way. I do believe they legitimately did the best they could with what they had to work with under the circumstances, but that's such a pale and paltry shadow of what it means to be a full and well-rounded human being that I get a kind of emotional vertigo when I try to imagine living that way. It's horrible. And trying to live in their airless bubble for much of my life nearly killed me. I wish they could know what it's like to step outside of it and breathe, but they're in their 80s now, and I doubt they ever will. Over the years, my anger at them has shifted into pity for wasting the only life they have that way. Just terribly sad.
Yeah. I feel like that's real. The shift into pity too. Yeah.
It really does, because especially as parents get older, when they still never confront those types of things, even when you as the child
Being a
have
full grown
worked
adult
through
now.
that, you go through all the stages of like being angry about it, being accepting, to being like, well, maybe I can change them, let's talk about it, mom and dad, and then to realizing they're never going to.
Yeah.
That would be very depressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you hit those ages, there's not a lot you can do. I'm not saying that no one could ever change their mind, but it's so unlikely that you're going to change their minds that the best you can do is protect yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's for everyone to decide for themselves. Some people might not find it necessary to fully go no contact. Sometimes you just have to limit the contact and say, you know what, like, I need to take a little break. I'll see you sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, limit it, but that's for everyone to decide.
I think this is also still a big thing to point out of like, the issue isn't necessarily, like, it's kind of a problem, but the issue isn't necessarily that the parents disagree with the kids' decisions or whatever views, like, you know, as much as like we personally would disagree with those parents on their views, like, the issue is not that they have those views, it's the fact that they chose, hey, because like I have this view and you have a different view, then like I'm gonna like completely not attend this very important thing in your life, and I'm gonna like force myself on you, and like you have to agree with me or this is done. And then like kind of like, is there any kind of surprise? I mean, maybe it's mutually agreed at that point, like, okay, well, you stated that's maybe your boundary then. Like, your rule is I have to listen to everything you do, otherwise we can't talk. Fine, then we can't talk. And like actually following through on that. And so I don't know, like, it's still weird to like Alex, the son, chose to do that, like they wanted, and for them to still like try to talk to him more and stuff like that. It's like, no, this is the decision that you made. Like, you made a decision to cut me off, or like to like have this ultimatum of you're not going to attend things and like be like punishing because I'm not specifically listening to you. Then like this is what happens. This is what you get. I don't know. Like the whole like ultimatum cut off is the main issue. Like, despite whatever opinions they might have.
Yeah. So another comment said, parents who miss their children's graduation or wedding on purpose are automatically the bad guys, period. The empty chairs are even a common trope in TV and movies for the quickest way to show that parents are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, kind of true. Like, you're purposely missing your child's one-time event. They don't have another one of those. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Marriage,
it's
wedding,
a very important
graduation.
moment in their life, and you chose not to be there.
Yeah, he's never going to have another graduation in the same way he had that one, even if it gets a doctorate or whatever.
Yeah.
That's still a different graduation. That's still like a different event. You only get like, there's a few of these things you only get one time, and to miss it in order to punish you, that shows that I don't need you in my life. Mm-hmm. If somebody tried to punish me by taking themselves out of my life, I'll be like, okay, you took yourself out of my life. Fine. Goodbye.
Yeah. And then, also, it's kind of like, okay, let's stick to that decision. Like, if you're going to do that, then don't try to harass me afterward.
Yeah.
Like you made
It's
your bed.
so interesting that some of the most toxic people are the ones who threaten stuff like that. It's like, you were not even fun to have around, and you're threatening me that you're not going to be there. And I know it works because obviously sometimes these situations, obviously,
Don't threaten me with
I'm
a good
not trying to
time.
make light of these situations, but
Yeah.
it is just ironic.
Yeah.
Because that people will threaten, like, and I think part of it is they're wanting you to stroke their ego by saying no, like, come, please
Yeah.
come.
I'll
They
do
want
everything
you
you
to
want.
beg
Yeah.
because they want to feel desired and needed.
Yeah.
And it's just sad for parents to do that, because it should be a more one-sided relationship for a parent and a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The parent's job is to love your child unconditionally. Now, it would be nice if the child reciprocated.
Yeah.
But in a toxic situation, sometimes that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a really sad scenario, but I can't say that it's particularly uncommon. There's a lot more comments. There's no way we can read them all. So I think that I'm going to stop.
There's a lot
Here.
of people that relate to that sentiment, though, for sure.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
people talking about how this family, some of the things that they were saying in the story are very conservative things. And this is an issue that a lot of conservative families have, particularly the conservative families that are very religious.
Yeah.
In not having a good tolerance for other people. One of the comments said something along the lines of, be careful who you hate, because who you hate might be like a family member or something like that.
Yeah.
That. I can't remember. It might be really close to you. Something like that. And that is so true. Like, you really, sometimes if you have that kind of environment that makes people uncomfortable to be themselves, you might not know what you think you know about certain family members.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to feel safe talking to you.
Yeah.
And so they might not even realize, but that's a little bit of a different, I'm not going to get into all that today, but yeah, I wanted to talk about that story because it is crazy.
Yeah.
And it is very close to some of the things that me and you deal with. And when I first read that story, I just skimmed, so I didn't know it was going to get into all of that. But I wanted to talk about it because we had talked about you taking my last name at some point, and you ended up deciding that you liked your last name and you felt more comfortable keeping it. And that's exactly how I felt about my last name. I felt more comfortable keeping my last name.
And I didn't force it, we didn't force it on the other person either.
Yeah, and neither of our families freaked out. Thank you for not freaking out. They were a little weirded out, maybe, because that is traditional in America.
Yeah.
That you would take the husband's last name, but it's
traditional
not
almost
like a requirement by law. And I want to keep my last name. I felt really weird about taking somebody else's last name, and I decided, I literally went back and forth on it so much, Roy. You know I did. And I really wanted to have the same last name as you. I would have loved that. But I love my personhood more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love you very much, but I love
that
it's more like for myself.
It's very fine to be like, like you can love someone and not be like, hey, so I should like remove a part of myself for this person.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I have a very strong bubble of like, around me, so much so that I actually get in trouble because I'm pushing into other people. But I would much rather have that bubble and have to deal with like apologizing or like working on myself not to push into you
than the opposite.
Where I am trampled.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to teach a lot of my friends is like, get yourself a bubble of fuck you, so that like when someone tries to push your buttons, push into your boundaries, you might not even have boundaries yet. And it's like a fuck you.
Yeah, you can actually stop that and then have like enjoyment for yourself. Yeah.
Right. In general. So anyway, we'll do one more story and then we'll go ahead and end the video. So last story.
Okay.
Am I the asshole for insisting we change our son's name? My wife, 24 female, and
Wait. What is the title again?
am I the asshole for insisting we change our son's name?
Have you read this already?
Have you?
No.
I read part of it, yeah.
Okay, but you've only read part of it. I want to pre-guess.
Oh,
this last
okay.
one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What? So, what do you think's gonna happen?
Okay. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen, but what am I an asshole for wanting to change my son's name? Right.
For insisting that we change our son's name.
Okay.
Should I give the context of
no
male,
context.
female,
No,
how
no,
old, child? Okay. Okay.
No context.
Okay.
Well, now that you gave that context, it makes it
It is
so
a
much
man
easier.
speaking.
Okay. Well, I probably would have said no, because I imagine the idea will just be like it's going to be for a reason, like a decent reason. So like, if you like, why would you want to? Okay, you were part of making the name in the first place, and if something big happened enough for you to want to change it, then there's no reason to want to. Like, there's no reason to want to do that unless it's for the benefit of the child. So the question is this person going to be in the benefit of the child or not? I'm going to assume that the person posting is in the benefit of the child and is therefore not the asshole.
Okay. All right. Let's see if you're right.
I feel like it's not going to be right now.
My wife, 24 female, and I, 28 male, had our first baby, 5 months ago. We've been together for 6 years, married for 5. He is a beautiful little boy, and we gave him the same first name as my wife's father, which is Keith. It's not actually Keith, I don't think, but yeah. My wife grew up hating her father for cheating on her mother and abandoning the family. In the past decade, he worked tirelessly to improve their relationship. In her family, it's typically traditional for the first grandson and granddaughter to be named after their grandparents, and my wife was proud to name our son after her father. However, a few weeks ago, my wife and her father had a massive argument. Turns out he is convinced that for some reason I'm going to cheat on my wife. He thinks he got married too young and I'll get bored of her now that she's devoted all her time to our son.
I did it, so everyone else will too. Okay.
Got married at 23.
That's not even that.
That's not that young. She would have been like 22-ish, I want to say.
Yeah. I mean.
Oh, no. He was 23. She was 19. When they got married.
Yeah. I mean, it's still poor stance to make.
22. Ooh. 22 and 18.
Which means 5 years and there's some math.
Yeah. There's 4-year gap between them. I don't know.
6 years ago.
Okay, whatever. I'm reading too far into that. I don't really like age gaps, but I'm reading too far into it.
Yo, 13 and 17?
No, they were not 13 and 17. I mean, at one point in their lives, yes, they were 13 and 17.
You said there was a 4-year age gap, right?
Yeah, at one point
they were in a relationship for...
No.
No, they got married at that. So they only knew each other a year before.
They've been together for 6 years. The girl's 24. That means she would have been about 18. He would have been about 22. 18 and 22 is a weird gap. Yeah. But it's not unheard of.
I guess it's like that you're both in college, just at two different ends of it.
Let's hope. We're going to take that as we will. I don't know. All right. However, a few weeks ago, my wife and her father had a massive argument. Turns out he is convinced that for some reason I'm going to cheat on my wife. He thinks we got married too young and I'll get bored of her now that she's devoted all her time to our son. Which is a valid thing, but also... what would make the father think that? Anyway, he told my...
I don't think that's
It's valid because that's a statistic. Yeah. Not because... It's not valid in like, oh yeah, he's okay.
Well, no, like okay. I mean, I guess if that's a statistic, maybe. But it's also like, what... Well, for one, there's a question of... Was he involved at all during the time of them getting married?
Well, let's just finish the story because we don't have any. We have nothing.
I'm here to prejudge
other than the age gap and the parents.
Judging all the way through in between.
He told my wife this after she opened up to him about how worried she was being pregnant so soon after giving birth. Oh, so she's pregnant again? Okay. We didn't plan on the second pregnancy, and a few days after the argument, my wife miscarried, and it was a painful moment for both of us. Ooh. Okay, yeah, that's not, yeah. Essentially, he kicked her while she was already down for no reason. I had a friendly relationship with him, but I know he wanted my wife to remarry someone from her own background. Interesting. All right. Since the argument, my wife has not been calling our son by his name. She's using nicknames, calling him the baby, etc. She said that she needs time to get over the argument with her dad, but she also blames him for the miscarriage, which is something I don't think she'll get over. Father-in-law has made no attempts to apologize or reconcile. A month into my wife refusing to use our baby's name, I decided that we needed to change. I said that we needed to change it because it'll be better for my wife's mental health and our son's development. If this argument continues or is ever brought up again, she can't be too upset to use his name when he's old enough to actually know it. We've started the process now to change the name, and somehow it got back to father-in-law, and he knows that I suggested it. He's infuriated. He said that I was supposed to be the level-headed one since my wife is postpartum and recovering from a miscarriage, and that I've just made a rift a million times worse since I've denied him the family tradition. My in-law thinks I'm an asshole for insisting on the name change, since now I'll be even harder for them to reconcile. I don't think I'm an asshole, but my brother said it would be a good idea to get an unbiased opinion. So to recap that, basically the father-in-law is projecting onto them, thinking that not only having arguments and not backing down, but also causing, well, not necessarily causing, but causing a lot of trauma during a time where she had a miscarriage, which she can't seem to forgive him for.
Yeah.
Apparently the father-in-law is a cheater and thinks that it's gross. Her dad is gross.
Yeah.
What do you think? You were kind of right.
I was super right. What are you talking about? Yeah. Didn't think I'd be because, sometimes the guesses are just completely off. But yeah, no, 100%. For one, he's a terrible person, and he assumes that other people are terrible too. It looks like he also, the father-in-law. It also looks like the father-in-law just didn't like the husband in general.
You're very quick to be like, he's a terrible person. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
You're like passing judgment on all these people.
That's what this is for. That's what Reddit's for, all right? Reddit is for judging people, especially on Am I the Asshole? Of course I'm going to judge everyone.
No, we're judging the person asking if he's the asshole.
No, I'm judging everyone involved. If I'm judging one person, I'm judging everyone.
I've noticed that you're very judgmental when it comes to these stories.
Yes.
You pass judgment. Like, you're like, no.
No.
They're a horrible person.
Yeah,
horrible. They're horrible people.
Unforgivable. Can never do anything.
And I'm trying to like play devil's advocate at least a little bit.
No. I'm toxic, I told you. But yeah, no. Also, the other part of it is because he's, for one, arguing, oh, you married too young, and so he's likely to cheat on you. But the other part of it is he just wanted her to marry someone, like, from his background or ethnicity or whatever it is. So, like...
Yeah, I wonder what ethnicity... it doesn't really matter, but it sounds like they're two different ethnicities.
Yeah, and so because of that, that's not even his real reason of you married too young, that's why he'll cheat. He
doesn't like the guy.
Yeah, he just doesn't like the guy.
Yeah.
And so, like, if that was his true belief, then that means that the next person's going to cheat. But for some reason, the person he would pick wouldn't do that. So. Well,
let's get back to the issue at hand. They're saying, am I the asshole for insisting that my wife change the baby's name? And I don't think so, because you're doing it for your wife's benefit.
And also, it's another example of, like, if your whole logic is because tradition... And, like, especially when that's hurting people and to keep because tradition, that's a problem. Like, I don't know. I general, like, if there's a reason behind tradition, it might be a little different. But, like, otherwise, if it's just because tradition is why you should hurt yourselves and put yourself in risk for this stuff, like, I don't agree with it. And especially if he's a terrible person. He doesn't deserve whatever glory of tradition that was. Like, you're actually making your daughter hate her own son by, like, being the person that you are. It's like, why name someone after you if no one likes you in the first place?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of comments. One of the comments says, please don't give in to family tradition and parents want us to go against our own will. My parents were kind people, but really pushed me into abandoning some things that I loved. Then when I expressed regret over it, we're like, well, it's your life. You can't blame us when you have to be responsible for your own life. That sounds like a lot of parents, man. The about face almost made me lose my mind. Conversely, my younger brother made a lot of decisions that my parents objected to, marrying someone they hated, having baby with said person, but they came around and probably now show more respect to him than they do me, the people pleaser. Traditionalists often see the light and end up accepting things they once said was impossible, outrageous. Never, never, never bow to tradition or respect your elders. They'll turn around and blame you anyway for not having the willpower to live your own life.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Now, there's a way to do that in a respectful way that is not like alienating your entire family.
Yeah.
Or at least do your best not to alienate your entire family.
In normal circumstances, right? Because there's some people who will just like be offended no matter how respectful it is.
Like the last story.
Yeah.
But in a normal-ish family environment, or at least ones who actually do love you and respect you and want you in their life, then they will try to even if they can't see things your way, they will try to respect you and respect your boundaries.
Yeah.
And it might take a lot of years for that you to see fruits of that, but being honest is typically the best policy unless you're unsafe to do so. And like they said, like the people pleaser, they wrecked their own life, in certain aspects because they were trying to do what somebody else said that they should, and then it turned out that they should have just done what they wanted after all, because now their sibling is happy and healthy and the parents came around.
Mm-hmm.
So you should just ultimately do what you want.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yeah.
I say within reason because sometimes what people want is not something healthy. But you get what I'm saying. Like, there's a way to talk about this with your family and be like, no, sorry, I respect that, but this is my decision. This is how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And someone said, exactly. Not only does this affirm that it's both your child, your decision, but is also a decisive act that communicates to father-in-law that your BS is not wanted, not accepted, and not tolerated ever. His behavior will not be brushed off or minimized, and he doesn't get to abuse and be forgiven. He will probably continue flailing and lashing out at both of you. Let him scream into the void from far away. Here's hoping the name change is also a healing act that helps your wife make a clean break from her dad and take her power back. She might be feeling guilty or kicking herself for letting him back in her life. Part of the abuse cycle.
Yeah.
Taking back the name could be a powerful and symbolic reversal that kickstarts her healing. Cheers to putting assholes in the past.
Yep.
Someone said amen. Oh my gosh. No, it's so true. Like, I really think, I really hope that they chose to keep the name. This was about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we'll get an update.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I hope that they chose to keep the name. Or not, I'm sorry, not keep the name, change the name. If maybe something they could do is just make it the middle name so she doesn't have to call him that. But she's not just foregoing the whole thing.
Maybe.
But only if that's the right choice for them.
It would also still depend on like how the father reacts and like if he's able to actually, be like considerate and apologize.
I'm guessing not.
Yeah. And if that's not the case, then it's like, yeah, like it's completely her choice to keep that middle name or not. But I mean, the other question is like, what was the context of this big argument that they had? And it's hard to know that.
I don't really think it matters. It was enough to stick with her for a long time and make her stop calling her child by that name.
Yeah.
I agree with the poster that the name should be changed.
Yeah.
Because you don't get to have that tradition despite being a shitty parent or a shitty person or not apologizing, etc.
Yeah.
That is not something that you're entitled to.
Yeah.
And if it is causing you turmoil to not even want to call your child by that name, change the name.
Yeah.
Just change the name.
Yeah.
And she might not be ready to do that yet.
Yeah.
But I hope that they do, or that they're able to work it out with the dad. But it doesn't sound like he is somebody that would be.
I think the husband still pointed out a really good point. It's like, if this is going to be a thing, right? Because like if the dad has an issue and then you makes it so that you now see that, like, have a hard time calling your own child by that name, that's going to happen again in the future in some form or fashion. And so there's no way.
Right.
So like I would at most consider the middle name thing. I think that is a pretty good compromise.
Yeah, I think the middle name could be a really good compromise.
But yeah, no.
My family does that. They'll do it's like the last name as a middle name though, but it's still kind of a similar thing.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not the last name. I'm crazy. It's like the mother's side. I don't even remember. I'm sorry.
There's some
I'm probably not
somewhere.
going to follow the tradition because I don't even remember what it is. So sorry.
Yeah.
That's if I have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's our last story, and that's our 2 cents on it.
Yep.
This one got a little more heavy.
Yeah.
Than our last 2 episodes. Our last 2 episodes were a little crazy, a little funny.
Yeah, this one
went into like full parental trauma.
Yeah.
But that's how it is sometimes. Sometimes not every story is funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get real deep, and we got to talk about it because who else is going to?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like that's viewpoints that we have that maybe we can share with other people that it needs to be talked about more.
Yeah.
Man, I don't even remember everything we talked about, but it got a little crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was a lot.
Anything you want to share before we go?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, there were some things like not to the degree that it happened. There were some things that were pretty relatable going on in a lot of these stories.
A little bit, yeah.
So yeah, it was tough. It's tough, and it feels bad, man, for a lot of the people that are going through this. Hopefully, I think all of them are still pretty relatively young, so hopefully they can get through it.
Hopefully they work it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what really, really still sticks with me, even though I don't remember exactly the phrasing, is the willingness to. What, man? I need to write that down and make that my mission statement. Is not putting up with the BS just to make everybody comfortable and fly under the radar. Disingenuous harmony versus honest.
Like uncomfortable honesty or something.
We'll put it on the screen. I do want to write that down and live by that because I'm already living by that because that's just my personality.
Yep. But I still have to work on that personally for sure because I grew up in disingenuous harmony.
Anyway, I think that's all we have for you today. Catch us in the next episode. We have not decided the theme yet. We'll see what it is when we get there. I'm excited. I'm excited.
In the meantime, just make sure to like, subscribe, and comment.
Yes, please share, please support. We would love the support. We can only reach so far by ourselves. So if you're enjoying this content, please let us know. Hit the like button and otherwise engage with us.
Yes, and please comment if there's anything that you want us to read. If you have any stories of your own, or if there's other stories you would like us to read from Reddit or anywhere else.
I agree. If it's not up yet, we are going to have a Google form to submit Reddit stories that you would like us to read. So anything fun you've heard of, anything that you're like, whoa, Sally, let's read it. We would love to hear from you. Hopefully we'll have that up. If we have it so far, it'll be in the description, so check out the description. We should also have our social in the description, our Instagram, our threads, whatever else we have going. We may get a Twitter in the future. We'll see. Anything we have, we'll put it down in the description. So anyway, that's enough ado. See you guys next time, and bye.